Kira's enhanced senses picked up what had alerted him. Her scent. Despite her precautions, she had stayed too long in one place. The wind had shifted, carrying her smell toward the camp center. She had seconds before they discovered her. The escape. Kira burst from the tent and ran. Behind her, shouts of alarm erupted. The entire camp came alive like a disturbed ant hill. Rogues poured from their shelters, weapons in hand. Intruder. Silver Crest Wolf. Kira sprinted toward the camp's edge, her heart pounding. Arrows whistled past her head. A spear thudded into a tree inches from her shoulder. She dodged, weaved, and ran faster than she ever had in her life. She reached the perimeter and dove into the forest. But the rogues were right behind her, their howls filling the night. They knew these woods as well as she did. They were faster in a group. And they were furious. Kira ran for hours using every trick she knew. She crossed streams to hide her scent. She climbed trees and leaped between branches. She laid false trails and doubled back. But still they came, relentless and enraged. As dawn broke on the fourth day, Kira realized she couldn't outrun them forever. She was exhausted, injured from a glancing arrow wound on her side, and they were gaining ground. She needed to make a stand. Kira found a narrow gorge with rocks on either side. A defensible position. She positioned herself with her back to a cliff face and her weapons ready. If she was going to die, she would take as many of them with her as possible. And at least the journal would be found on her body. Maybe someone would believe the truth. The first rogues appeared at the gorge entrance. The scarred leader stood at their front, his face twisted with rage. "You've caused us a lot of trouble, Silvercrest Wolf," he snarled. "That journal better be worth your life because you're not leaving this gorge alive." "Come and take it then," Kira challenged, raising her blade. Inside, she discovered a chest containing documents. Letters written in Marcus's distinctive handwriting. Payment records showing transfers of pack funds to rogue accounts. Maps of Silvercrest with guard positions marked. Battle plans detailing attacks going back 5 years. And there at the bottom of the chest was a journal. Marcus's journal. Kira's hand shook as she read the entries. He had documented everything. His growing resentment of Alpha Thomas. His belief that he deserved to lead. His careful cultivation of rogues as a private army. And there, written in stark black ink, was the entry from 5 years ago. "Tonight the rogues will attack. I've given them the patrol schedules and the location of the weakest point in our defenses. They will kill Thomas, and I will be there to heroically fight them off, proving my strength. Kira Stone suspects something. I've seen her watching me. She must be eliminated as well. I've arranged evidence that will point to her as the traitor. A few well-placed witnesses, some planted proof, and she'll take the blame for everything. By tomorrow I will be the beta of a grieving pack, and Kira will be exiled or dead. All obstacles removed." Kira felt sick. He had planned the entire thing. The attack that killed Alpha Thomas and 17 others. Her framing in exile. All of it orchestrated by the man who now stood as Damon's most trusted advisor. She carefully photographed every page with the small camera she had hidden in her supplies. This technology was rare among werewolves, but Kira had learned many survival skills during her exile. The evidence was now documented. But she needed the physical journal. That would be impossible to deny. Kira tucked the journal inside her jacket and began to leave the tent. That's when she heard voices approaching. "Check the supplies tent," the scarred leader's voice commanded. "I smell something off. Half their warriors will be on the eastern border dealing with the false threat we planted." Kira's blood ran cold. The beta. They meant Marcus. Another rogue, a woman with silver-streaked hair, nodded. "We've been paid well for this work. But I still don't understand the bigger plan. Why weaken Silvercrest so slowly? Why not just attack with full force?" The scarred leader laughed. "Because the beta is clever. He doesn't want Silvercrest destroyed. He wants it destabilized. He wants their alpha to look weak, to lose the pack's confidence. Then when the time is right, the beta will step in as the hero who saves them all. He'll challenge for the alpha position with the pack's full support. And we get paid to make it happen," the woman said with a cruel smile. "Not a bad arrangement. Plus, we get revenge for how Silvercrest treated us," another rogue added. They cast us out, called us worthless. Now we make them bleed. Kira's mind raced. This was the proof she needed. Marcus had been orchestrating attacks against his own pack for years, all to position himself to overthrow Damon. And 5 years ago, he had framed Kira to eliminate her as a threat. She had been one of the pack's strongest warriors, fiercely loyal to Alpha Thomas and to Damon. She would have never supported Marcus in a challenge. So he had gotten rid of her. The rage that burned through Kira was almost overwhelming. 5 years of suffering, exile, and shame. All because of one man's ambition. Her hands clenched into fists. She wanted to rush into that camp and tear Marcus's name from their throats. But she forced herself to stay calm. She needed more than overheard conversations. She needed physical proof. The evidence. Kira waited until deep night when most of the camp slept. Only a few guards remained awake, and they were lazy, confident in their numbers and isolation. She moved like smoke through the camp, searching for what she needed. She found it in the largest tent, the leader's quarters. Into the wolf's den. The northern wilderness was exactly as brutal as Kira remembered. 3 days of hard travel through dense forest, across icy streams, and over rocky terrain left her exhausted but alert. Every shadow could hide an enemy. Every sound could signal danger. She moved like the wind, silent, swift, and leaving no trace. On the evening of the 3rd day, she found the Bloodfang camp. It was larger than the map had indicated. At least 50 rogues, maybe more, spread across a clearing in the heart of the forest. They had built rough shelters from logs and animal hides. Fires burned in stone pits, and the smell of roasting meat drifted on the wind. These weren't mindless beasts. They were organized, disciplined, and clearly preparing for something big. Kira crouched in the thick underbrush at the camp's edge, studying their movements and patterns. The rogues worked in shifts, guards rotating every 4 hours, patrols circling the camp's perimeter every 30 minutes. They had scouts posted in the trees and lookouts on the high ground. This was a military operation, not a random band of outlaws. Someone was training them. Someone with knowledge of pack warfare tactics. As darkness fell completely, Kira began her infiltration. She moved between the guard rotations, timing her approach perfectly. Her dark clothing helped her blend with the shadows. Years of survival had taught her to become invisible when needed. She slipped past the outer perimeter and found a position behind a large storage tent. From here, she could observe the camp center where the leaders gathered. She settled in to watch and listen. The truth in whispers. "The next raid is scheduled for 3 days from now," a rough voice said. Kira peered around the tent's edge and saw a massive rogue with scars covering his arms. This must be their leader. "The beta says Silvercrest will be weak." "Don't," Kira interrupted. She couldn't hear whatever he was about to say. Couldn't afford the weakness it might create. "If I come back, if I prove myself, then you can say whatever you need to say. But not now. Not before I walk into hell." Damon studied her face, and she wondered what he saw there. The broken exile? The accused traitor? Or perhaps the ghost of the girl he once cared about? "Come back alive," he finally said. It wasn't a command. It was almost a plea. "That's all I ask. Come back alive and we'll find the truth together." Kira nodded once, not trusting her voice. Then she turned and walked out into the gathering darkness, toward a mission that would either clear her name or end her life. Behind her, Damon watched until she disappeared into the trees. His hand unconsciously moved to his chest, where his heart beat with an unfamiliar ache. His wolf stirred restlessly, wanting to follow, wanting to protect. But he forced himself to stay still. The first move was made. Now they would all see how this deadly game played out. She studied the map carefully. The Bloodfang camp was marked in the northern wilderness, about 3 days' hard travel from Silvercrest territory. The area was marked as extremely dangerous, with notes about patrols and guard rotations. Someone had done extensive scouting, or someone had set a perfect trap. Kira knew she had no choice but to spring it and hope she was clever enough to survive. She spent the remaining hours before sunset preparing mentally and physically. She stretched her scarred muscles, tested her weapons, and tried to quiet the storm of emotions inside her. Fear, anger, hope, and something else she didn't want to name when she thought of Damon. As the sun began to sink toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Kira shouldered her pack and left the small room. The pack house was quiet. Most wolves were at dinner in the communal hall. She could hear the sound of conversation and laughter in the distance. Normal pack life. The life she had been torn away from. She made it to the back entrance without seeing anyone. That's where she found Damon waiting. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching the sunset. He didn't turn when she approached, but she knew he sensed her presence. "I wasn't sure you'd actually go," he said quietly. "Did you want me to run?" Kira asked, stopping a few feet away. "Part of me did," Damon admitted. "The part that remembers friendship and trust. The part that doesn't want to believe you're guilty." He finally turned to look at her. "But the alpha in me needs to know the truth. Needs to give you this chance. Even though you think I'll die?" Kira challenged. "Even then." Damon pushed off the doorframe and walked closer. They stood face to face, the dying light turning his eyes amber. "Kira, if you really are innocent, if I was wrong, I need you to know that the traitor returns. I must admit, I never thought I'd see you again. I certainly didn't expect Damon to offer you this opportunity. I suppose you would have preferred he killed me immediately," Kira said, not bothering to hide her hostility. Marcus's smile widened. "Actually, this is much better. You see, Kira, these missions aren't just impossible. They're designed to destroy you piece by piece. By the time you fail, and you will fail, no one will question your guilt. You'll have proven yourself worthless one final time." "Is that a threat?" Kira asked, standing to face him. "It's a promise," Marcus replied. He pulled a pack from his shoulder and tossed it on the cot. "Your supplies. Map, dried food, water, basic weapons. Everything you need to walk right into your death." Kira looked at the pack, then back at Marcus. "I know it was you. I've always known. Someday I'll prove it." Marcus's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "Careful, Kira. Accusations without proof are how you ended up here in the first place. Some lessons it seems you never learn." He turned and walked to the door, then paused. "Oh, and Kira? The Bloodfang rogues? They have a special hatred for Silvercrest wolves. Something about a betrayal years ago. I'm sure you'll fit right in with them, being a traitor yourself." The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like a death sentence. Ghosts of the past. Kira waited until she was certain Marcus was gone before she approached the pack. She opened it carefully, half expecting a trap. But it seemed to contain exactly what Marcus had said. A rolled map, packages of dried meat and journey bread, a water skin, a silver knife, and a small crossbow with a dozen bolts. Marcus Vale. The man who had accused her. The man whose testimony had sealed her fate 5 years ago. The man she knew in her bones was the real traitor. "I remember him," Kira said carefully. "Good. He'll be monitoring your progress." Damon moved to the door and opened it. "You have until sunset to prepare. There's a small room in the servants' quarters where you can rest. Don't try to leave the pack house grounds or the deal is void." Kira walked to the door but paused next to Damon. They were so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body. The scent of him, pine and leather and something uniquely Damon, filled her senses. Her wolf stirred inside her for the first time in years, responding to his presence in a way that confused and frightened her. "Why are you really doing this?" she asked quietly, looking up into his face. For a long moment, Damon stared down at her. She saw the war raging behind his eyes. Then his expression hardened again, the mask slamming back into place. "Because a good alpha seeks truth even when that truth is painful," he said. "Now go. You have work to do. The bait is poison." Kira made her way to the servants' quarters as instructed. The small room was bare except for a cot, a table, and a basin for washing. It was more than she had expected. She sat on the cot and finally allowed herself to breathe. 3 missions. 3 chances to prove her innocence. It was more hope than she'd had in 5 years, but it also felt like a trap. Especially knowing Marcus Vale was involved. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Before she could respond, the door opened and Marcus himself walked in. He looked older now, his blonde hair showing streaks of gray at the temples. But his blue eyes were as sharp and calculating as ever. He wore the silver pin of a beta on his collar, a position of power second only to the alpha. Well, well, Marcus said, his smile cold and predatory. Kira felt trapped. She had known coming back was dangerous, but she hadn't expected this. Why these missions? Why not just kill me now and be done with it? For the first time, something genuine flickered in Damon's eyes. Pain perhaps. Or doubt. Because despite everything, a part of me remembers the girl who fought by my side. The warrior who saved my life twice before we were even 18. The friend who knew all my secrets. He turned back to the window. If there's even a chance I was wrong about you, I need to know. Kira's throat tightened. This was the first hint of the old Damon she had seen. The boy who had been her best friend. Her partner in everything. But she couldn't afford to hope. Hope was dangerous. What are the missions? She asked. The impossible tasks. Damon pulled a leather folder from his desk drawer and opened it. Mission 1. Infiltrate the Bloodfang rogue camp in the northern wilderness. They've been raiding our borders for months. We need to know their numbers, their weapons, and their plans. You'll go in alone, gather the intelligence, and return within 1 week. That's suicide, Kira said bluntly. The Bloodfang rogues kill outsiders on sight. Yes. That's why no one has survived it yet. Damon's expression was unreadable. But you were always the best at stealth and infiltration. If anyone can do it, it's you. Kira studied him. You want me to die on this mission? No, Damon said, and for a moment his mask slipped. She saw the conflict in his eyes. I want you to prove me wrong. I want you to show me that the Kira stone I once knew still exists. The one who never gave up, no matter how impossible the odds. And the other 2 missions? Kira asked. We'll discuss those if you survive the first one. Damon closed the folder. You leave at sunset. My beta Marcus Vale will provide you with supplies and a map. You remember Marcus, don't you? Kira's blood ran cold at the name. You look terrible, Damon said flatly, studying her with those cold eyes. 5 years alone clearly haven't been kind to you. Kira said nothing. She had learned long ago that silence was often the best defense. I suppose you're wondering why I summoned you, Damon continued. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled under his chin. After all, I was the one who exiled you. I was the one who declared you traitor and ordered you to never return on pain of death. The thought had crossed my mind, Kira replied. Her voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside her. Damon's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Always so composed. That's what made you such a good warrior. Nothing rattled you. Nothing broke your focus. He paused. Except apparently loyalty. The accusation stung, but Kira kept her face blank. You summoned me for a reason, Alpha. What do you want? The devil's bargain. Damon stood and walked to the window overlooking the packlands. His back was to her now, hands clasped behind him. Things have become complicated since you left. The rogue attacks have increased. We've lost warriors. Good warriors. The pack is weakening. Kira frowned. What does that have to do with me? Everything. Damon turned to face her. Because I'm offering you a deal. A chance to prove your innocence. Kira's heart skipped a beat. What kind of deal? 3 missions, Damon said, holding up 3 fingers. 3 impossible tasks that no one else has survived. Complete all 3, and I will personally investigate the night of the attack. I will look for evidence of your innocence with my own eyes. And if I refuse? Kira asked. Then you'll be executed at dawn tomorrow for violating your exile. Damon's voice was matter of fact, as if discussing the weather. You cross back into pack territory. That alone is a death sentence according to the law I set down 5 years ago. He was magnificent and terrifying. The power rolling off him made even the strongest wolves in the square bow their heads in submission. This was an alpha in his prime and he ruled absolutely. I summoned her, Damon announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the square. Anyone who harms her before I'm finished with her will answer to me personally. Is that understood? A chorus of yes, Alpha echoed back. Damon's eyes finally met Kira's. For one brief moment, she thought she saw something flicker in those cold depths. Recognition? Regret? But it was gone so fast she decided she had imagined it. Follow me, he commanded and turned back into the pack house without waiting to see if she obeyed. Kira climbed the steps, ignoring the pain in her shoulder where the rocks had hit. The pack house was exactly as she remembered. Wooden floors polished to a shine, paintings of past alphas on the walls, the smell of cedar and leather everywhere. But it no longer felt like home. It felt like enemy territory. The office of judgment. Damon's office was on the second floor. He held the door open for her, a gesture of politeness that felt mocking given the circumstances. Kira entered and heard the door close behind her with a definitive click. The office had been Alpha Thomas's once. Kira remembered sneaking in here as a child with Damon, stealing cookies from the Alpha's secret stash. They had been caught and made to run laps for an hour as punishment. They had laughed about it afterward, collapsed in the grass, staring at clouds and dreaming of their futures. That memory felt like it belonged to different people. Strangers wearing their faces. Damon moved behind the massive oak desk and sat down. He didn't invite Kira to sit. She stood before the desk like a criminal before a judge, which she supposed she was in his eyes. The moment they saw her, everything stopped. Conversations died. Children were pulled behind their mothers' skirts. Eyes filled with pure hatred followed her every step. Murderer, someone whispered. She killed Alpha Thomas, another voice hissed. My brother died because of her betrayal, a woman shouted, her face red with rage. Kira forced herself to keep walking. She kept her eyes forward, her spine straight. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. But inside, each word was like a knife twisting in her gut. These people had been her family once. She had grown up with them, trained with them, laughed with them. The worst part was knowing they believed the lies. They truly thought she had betrayed them. They thought she had opened the pack's defenses to the rogue attack that killed their beloved Alpha Thomas 5 years ago. They thought she was responsible for the deaths of 17 pack members that terrible night. A rock struck her shoulder. Then another hit her back. Kira stumbled but didn't fall. She kept walking. More rocks came. Some hit, some missed. She tasted blood where one cut her lip. Still she walked on. Enough. The commanding voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Everyone froze. Kira stopped walking and slowly turned her head. The Alpha who broke her heart. Damon Pierce stood at the entrance of the pack house. 5 years had changed him dramatically. The boy she once knew had vanished completely. In his place stood a man carved from stone and fury. He was taller now, broader, with muscles that spoke of countless hours of brutal training. His black hair was longer, tied back from a face that had lost all softness. But it was his eyes that shocked her most. Once they had been warm brown, full of laughter and kindness. Now they were cold, hard, and filled with authority that demanded instant obedience. The road of shame. The dirt road leading to Silvercrest Pack territory felt longer than Kira Stone remembered. Every step sent dust clouds around her worn boots. 5 years had passed since she last walked this path. 5 years of exile, running and surviving alone in the wilderness. The morning sun was cruel, exposing every scar on her face and arms. These were marks of battles fought without a pack, without protection, without a home. Kira stopped at the tall iron gates that marked the pack boundary. Her heart pounded like a war drum. The guards recognized her immediately, their faces twisted with disgust and anger. One spat on the ground near her feet. The traitor returns, the guard named Jacob growled. His hand moved to the silver blade at his hip. You have nerve showing your face here, Kira Stone. Kira kept her expression blank. She had practiced this moment 1,000 times in her mind. I received Alpha Damon's summons. I am here by his command, not by choice. The second guard, a younger wolf she didn't recognize, looked confused. Why would the Alpha summon a traitor? That's between me and your Alpha, Kira replied coldly. Now let me pass, or explain to Damon Pierce why you kept him waiting. The mention of their Alpha's full name made both guards hesitate. Jacob cursed under his breath and pulled the gate open just enough for Kira to squeeze through. The pack house. He's waiting in his office. Don't touch anything. Don't speak to anyone. Just walk straight there. Kira nodded and stepped through. The familiar sense of her childhood home hit her like a physical blow. Pine trees, fresh water from the creek, bread baking in the communal kitchens. This place had once been her entire world. Now it felt like walking through a graveyard of memories. The gauntlet of hatred. The path to the pack house took her through the main square. It was mid-morning, and the square was full of wolves going about their daily business. The rogues charged. The alpha's fury. What happened next was something Kira would remember for the rest of her life. A massive wolf, larger than any she had ever seen, exploded from the forest to her left. Its fur was black as midnight. Its eyes burned like molten gold, and the power radiating from it was absolutely terrifying. An alpha. And not just any alpha. Damon. He slammed into the first line of rogues like a force of nature. His jaws closed on the scarred leader's throat before the man could even scream. The other rogues tried to fight back, but they were nothing compared to an alpha in full fury. Damon tore through them with brutal efficiency, his movements a dance of death. Behind him came more wolves. Silver Crest warriors, at least a dozen of them, led by Gavin Blackwood, Damon's head enforcer. They joined the battle and the tide turned instantly. Kira stood frozen watching Damon fight. She had seen him in combat before years ago, but never like this. This was an alpha protecting what was his with absolutely no mercy. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Within minutes, the rogues were either dead or fleeing. The ones who ran didn't get far. The Silver Crest warriors hunted them down. Damon shifted back to human form, not caring about his nakedness. Blood covered his chest and arms. His eyes still glowed faintly with his wolf's presence. He walked straight to Kira, his expression unreadable. "You were supposed to return in a week," he said, his voice rough. "It's only been 4 days. I got what I needed faster than expected," Kira managed to say. The adrenaline was fading, and she suddenly felt every injury and exhaustion. "How did you find me?" "Your scent," Damon said simply. "I've been tracking you since you left. I stayed far enough back to not interfere, but close enough to." He trailed off. "Close enough to what?" Kira pressed. The rogues charged. The alpha's fury. What happened next was something Kira would remember for the rest of her life. A massive wolf, larger than any she had ever seen, exploded from the forest to her left. Its fur was black as midnight. Its eyes burned like molten gold, and the power radiating from it was absolutely terrifying. An alpha. And not just any alpha. Damon. He slammed into the first line of rogues like a force of nature. His jaws closed on the scarred leader's throat before the man could even scream. The other rogues tried to fight back, but they were nothing compared to an alpha in full fury. Damon tore through them with brutal efficiency, his movements a dance of death. Behind him came more wolves. Silver Crest warriors, at least a dozen of them, led by Gavin Blackwood, Damon's head enforcer. They joined the battle and the tide turned instantly. Kira stood frozen watching Damon fight. She had seen him in combat before years ago, but never like this. This was an alpha protecting what was his with absolutely no mercy. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Within minutes, the rogues were either dead or fleeing. The ones who ran didn't get far. The Silver Crest warriors hunted them down. Damon shifted back to human form, not caring about his nakedness. Blood covered his chest and arms. His eyes still glowed faintly with his wolf's presence. He walked straight to Kira, his expression unreadable. "You were supposed to return in a week," he said, his voice rough. "It's only been 4 days. I got what I needed faster than expected," Kira managed to say. The adrenaline was fading, and she suddenly felt every injury and exhaustion. "How did you find me?" "Your scent," Damon said simply. "I've been tracking you since you left. I stayed far enough back to not interfere, but close enough to." He trailed off. "Close enough to what?" Kira pressed.